Peter Baker was born in Lewisham, South London. He was nicknamed Ginger for his shock of flaming red hair. His mother Ruby May worked in a tobacco shop, and his father Frederick Louvain Formidable Baker was a bricklayer employed by his own father, who owned a building business and was a lance corporal in the Royal Corps of Signals in World War II. He died in the 1943 Dodecanese campaign. Baker went to Pope Street School, where he was considered one of the better players in the football team, and then to Shooters Hill Grammar School. While at school, he joined Squadron 56 of the Air Training Corps based at Woolwich and stayed with them for 2 or 3 years. Baker began playing drums at around 15 years of age. In the early 1960s, he took lessons from Phil Seamen, one of the leading British jazz drummers of the post-war era. In the 1960s, he joined Blues Incorporated, where he met bassist Jack Bruce. The two clashed often, but would be rhythm section partners again in the Graham Bond Organization, a rhythm and blues group with strong jazz leanings. Their relationship was so volatile that Baker once attacked Bruce with a knife during a concert. In March 1963, Baker and Bruce played in the Johnny Burch Octet with Burch, Jack Bruce, Mike Falana, Stan Robinson and John Mumford and others. Despite this volatile relationship, Baker and Bruce reunited in 1966 when they formed Cream with guitarist Eric Clapton. A fusion of blues, psychedelic rock and hard rock, the band released 4 albums in a little over 2 years before breaking up in 1968. Baker then joined the short-lived supergroup Blind Faith, comprising Eric Clapton, bassist Ric Grech from Family, and Steve Winwood from Traffic on keyboards and vocals. They released only 1 album, Blind Faith, before breaking up. In 1970, Baker toured and recorded 2 albums with fusion rock group Ginger Baker's Air Force. Following Air Force, Baker created the short-lived Ginger Baker Drum Choir, which released a soul single on Atco Records in 1971. The 45 RPM record featured a 3-piece drum ensemble and call and response vocals, with the song Atunde We Are Here and Atunde Part 2 on its A and B sides. In November 1971, Baker decided to set up a recording studio in Lagos, then the capital of Nigeria. He decided that it would be an interesting experience to travel to Nigeria overland across the Sahara Desert. Baker invited documentary filmmaker Tony Palmer to join him, and the film Ginger Baker in Africa follows his odyssey as he makes his journey and finally arrives in Nigeria to set up his studio. After many frustrating setbacks and technical hitches, Batakota Studios opened at the end of January 1973 and operated successfully through the 70s as a facility for both local and Western musicians. Paul McCartney and Wings recorded the song Picasso's Last Words for Band on the Run at the studio, with Baker playing a tin can full of gravel. After the failure of the recording studio in Lagos, Baker spent most of the early 1980s on an olive farm in a small town in Tuscany, Italy. During this period, he played little music. In 1980, Baker joined Hawkwind, after initially playing as a session musician on the album Levitation, and he left in 1981 after a tour. Live material and studio demos from that period, which Baker participated in, were included on 2 Hawkwind albums released later in the 1980s. In 1985, he worked with producer Bill Laswell on Horses and Trees, and then performed as a session musician on album by Public Image Limited. Baker moved to Los Angeles in the late 1980s, intending to become an actor. He unsuccessfully auditioned for the part of the homeless man in the 1989 Weird Al Yankovic comedy film UHF, and appeared in the 1990 TV series Nasty Boys as Ginger. In 1992, Baker played with the hard rock group Masters of Reality, with bassist Googe and singer-guitarist Chris Goss on the album Sunrise on the Suffrabus. BBM formed in 1993, the short-lived power trio with the lineup of Baker, Jack Bruce and Irish blues rock guitarist Gary Moore recorded the album around the Next Dream released 1994. Baker lived in Parker, Colorado between 1993 and 1999, in part due to his passion for polo. Baker not only participated in polo events at the Salisbury Equestrian Park, but he also sponsored an ongoing series of jam sessions and concerts at the Equestrian Center on weekends. His past drug history increasingly caused him problems with U.S. immigration, so in 1999 he sold his property in Parker and moved to South Africa. In 1994 he formed the Ginger Baker Trio with bassist Charlie Hayden and guitarist Bill Frisell. On the 3rd of May 2005, Baker reunited with Eric Clapton and Jack Bruce for a series of Cream concerts at the Royal Albert Hall and Madison Square Garden. The London concerts were recorded and released as Royal Albert Hall, London, May 2005. In a Rolling Stone article written in 2009, Bruce is quoted as saying, "It's a knife-edge thing between me and Ginger. Nowadays we're happily coexisting in different continents. Although I was thinking of asking him to move, he's still a bit too close." In 2008, a bank clerk, Lindiwe Noko, was charged with defrauding Baker of almost $60,000. Baker said he had hired Noko as a personal assistant, paying her £7 per day for performing various errands, and alleged she used this position to uncover his private banking information and make unauthorized withdrawals. Throughout 2013 and 2014, he toured with the Ginger Baker Jazz Confusion, a quartet comprising Baker, saxophonist Alfred Pee Wee Ellis, bassist Alec Dankworth, and percussionist Abbas Dadu. In 2014, Baker signed with Modema Music to release the album titled Why.